This episode is powered and sponsored by Fort Way Media. Whether it's a special event, your wedding day, or maybe a small business looking to make an advertisement or commercial, Fort Way Media is the obvious choice. They turn everyday life into a cinematic experience. When you want to capture those special moments, look no further. Stop what you're doing. Check out fortwaymedia.com, book an appointment today, and don't miss out on another chance to get what you want in front of the big screen. Whether it is expert videography or photography, Fort Way Media can match exactly what you're looking for. Fort Way Media is known for helping out small businesses and everyone reach their dreams. Sign up today.
Sound, speeding, camera, rolling. Scene 57, take 303, mark.
Welcome to Take 303, powered by Fort Way Media, the podcast where the guy who knows a lot about film.
And his friend.
I'm Nick Molinari.
I'm JP Brooks. We're talking everything film and television, and today we are talking about Dune Part 2.
But first, even before we get to cinematic news, we have a very special guest with us. Last season, we've had a slew of guests, all from different ranges of our lives. We've had significant others. We've had best friends. We've had my dad. We've had professional soccer players. But now we have my dad's girlfriend's son, who is not my stepbrother.
Boom!
Rich.
Hey, man. How you doing?
Welcome to the pod. We've been talking about this for a long time because Dune got rescheduled. So we had to reschedule this.
Got pushed back, like from November or December or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Instead, we got the Marvels.
I heard nothing but good things about that movie.
Yeah. Marvel's been on a streak lately, you know.
So we just like to do really quick. You don't have to you can say as much as you like, as much as you don't. But what
My social security number is?
Yeah, what's your social security number, credit card, all that. We'll get that. That's with our team. They'll hit you up. First question off the bat is: growing up, movies in your household. Did you have a movie night? Did you like movies as a kid? What'd you do with your family? Just give us, growing up, what were movies to you like?
Sure. Like movies were like an ever-present thing. You know, if it wasn't like baseball or the news on TV, it was a movie. Greatest like cinematic memory as a kid in a theater would probably be The Return of the King with my dad. He took me. I don't even remember. It was like noon or something.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King.
Iconic.
And then the Battle of Pelennor Fields when Theoden and all the Rohirrim. That memory, that image is burned into my brain because I saw it when I was like 5 or 6 or something.
Cool. And did your family have like a movie night? Is there one or you just kind of always went to the movies unspoken?
No, it wasn't really ever a set thing. It was just like, this looks cool, you know, or like, let's give mom a break, you know, and take the kids to the movies, you know.
You have a favorite genre of movies? And then what is your favorite movie right now? I always say right now, mine changes from time to time. So.
Mine's the same always. Genre-wise, man, I'm down for anything. If it's got a good story, then I'll be interested. You know, I've watched fucking Kurosawa movies, you know, all the way to period pieces. You know, it doesn't matter as long as it looks interesting to me. And favorite movie, I mean, I'm just gonna say Lord of the Rings because it's one movie, one story,
right,
you know.
Right.
Maybe Conan or something like that. The original, not the what's his name, not Aquaman.
Arnold Schwarzenegger one.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being on the podcast. Yeah, we've talked about this for a while.
So in cinematic news. We're a little bit short this week, I think, because the Oscars are approaching, and we also have to film the Broscars next week. JP, you've seen a lot of those movies there?
Oh yeah, knocking them out one by one, day after day.
Rich, have you seen a lot of the noms?
No, I haven't. I'm just gonna be straight up with you. I mean, you know, the Oscars are glorified. What is it? Like your job, your thing of the month, you know?
Yeah.
So.
No, it's self-masturbatory kind of celebrations. Something that we're not celebrating is the lack of money that is going to AMC right now. They lost a ton of money in the fourth quarter, but they have money for new Nicole Kidman ads.
Oh my God, I saw them going in. Did she sound like she was putting on an accent or something in that ad?
I mean, she natively has the Australian accent. JP, you can take your jaw off the floor. But even crazier than that news, the fact that they still have money in the budget for Nicole Kidman is that Eddie went to the theater with us to see Dune 2. He has never seen a Nicole Kidman ad in his
What?
life. Yes. Yeah. He turns to me, he's like, "What the fuck is Nicole Kidman doing here?" I'm like, "Bro, have you been to an AMC in the last like 3 to 4 years?" Like it's like a staple. Like people like have parried this to death. I'm actually filming one next week, a parody of it with Sammy. But yeah, he's never seen the Nicole Kidman ad in his life.
Richie, you've seen the ad, right?
Yeah, I mean it was
Okay.
before Dune because we went to an AMC.
Yeah.
So
Just making sure, because that's the
it,
greatest ad of all time.
it is so
Won't
up
be
its
beaten.
own ass. It's unbelievable. I hate. Okay, you guys saw the D&D movie. I remember listening to
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
episode. And before the movie, when they were like, "Thank you," it's like, stop. I'm coming here to see a fucking movie. Like,
Hang on, Tom Cruise personally thanked us.
And
yeah,
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 yeah, come on. But yeah, no, now that like that ad is just so crazy, how are you gonna double down? Like you have to go even bigger next time.
if
you need
she
to have like a
doesn't,
bunch.
yeah, she doesn't hold like the hands of just 8 children just walking to the theater.
If
Just,
it
Has
doesn't
she
end
been
up
in
like that
anything?
that song from the 80s where they're all
yeah.
singing
We
you know,
are the world.
yeah, it's
We
gotta
are
be
the
like,
movies.
Is she hard up or something? Like, has she not been in anything in a while?
yeah, she's cashing her Aquaman checks.
Okay.
Dune Part 2 is directed by Denis Villeneuve, and it stars Timothy Chalamet, Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson, Josh Brolin, Austin Butler, Florence Pugh, Dave Bautista, Christopher Walken, Leigh Sado, Soihi Yacoub, Stellan Skarsgård, Charlotte Rampling, and Javier Bardem.
After shanking the leader of the Fremen after one fight, our boy Paul Atreides losing his entire family and all the other crap that you don't remember from the first movie, goes out on an adventure to try to live his life and maybe even rides up a rebellion to take back his homeland and avenge his father and his family. As he does so, he explores the desert some more. His mom drinks some crazy drug liquid. People betray each other, and it goes all wild and crazy, and it all ends up for a knife fight in the end, and that's Dune.
So JP, right off the bat, before we hop into Dune Part
Yeah.
2, we're gonna delay this as much as possible, just like the movie. Very quickly, since you are our resident you know, expert on part ones of part twos,
Right.
can you give us a rundown here of does this work as its own film?
So let me start by saying, of the part one, of the part twos, of the part twos, of the part ones, this is a better. This part two is better than the part one, its counterpart, and they both are their own movie, which is great to see. I think part two, you don't actually have to know too much about part one. He's just dude in the desert, not like maybe a little bit. He's not accepted. Who gives a shit? All you know is they're gonna try to kill some people, and they do it. I think it stands great on its own.
Rich, how
I
do you
think
feel about the
I
parts?
think part two is definitely the better of the two. I think one was way too much setup. I mean, you're tackling what, like a 700-page book, and it deals with a lot of freaky shit. How are you gonna split? And a lot of it's very philosophical. Like how are you gonna handle it? One was way too much setup. It doesn't work as well as a standalone. It kind of just peters off, and it's like, okay, clearly there's another half to this story. Whereas two, I feel like I didn't rewatch part one for this. I followed it just fine. I think you could watch two as its own thing.
For me, I didn't remember part one too well, but I'm a big Denis fan. Love Prisoners, love Arrival, Blade Runner. I thought 2049 was better than the original. I'm in that grouping.
That's
Yeah.
wild.
So it was weird to me that I completely forgot Dune Part One, but then I remembered as I was watching it that yes, it's a super slow movie. So I even watched the original Dune from the 80s, and I showed JP a clip of just the
That's
knife
good stuff.
scene.
That's
The
That movie's not
shields,
Dune.
the shields were amazing. But
Bring them back. Bring them back, baby.
bring back the shields, the boxes, just the rectangles around their body. It looked like Tron on like steroids. But I didn't have a lot of time before we ran to the theater for Dune Part 2. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch this on 1.5 speed and just like, just knock this out. And when I tell you, it felt like I was watching just any other movie in regular speed because I had no idea how long these shots were, and I was like, "Wait, what is
Yeah,
happening? Why does it look like it's real time?" But it's
yeah.
still just so slow when you get those shots of like the
The establishing
sand,
shots, yeah.
yeah, all those establishing shots of the spaceships coming down and everything like that. It is so slow, but it sets the mood, it sets the tone. I do think that Dune Part 1 could have, they could have chopped off like 30, 40 minutes out of it, and it could have been great. And Part 2 does all of that. It speeds everything up. It has all the action because the original Dune combined these two films into one film, and it was like roughly about
Yeah.
2 hours. And in some ways, it does a better service for character development. It allows us to understand the lore a little bit better. In the first one, the original, I was so
You're
confused.
lost, yeah.
Yeah, but in this one, I think it made it more palpable, more digestible. It could still be a little bit faster, but this one has so much more action in it that it plays better.
Yeah, I disagree with half of what you said. I'm gonna let Rich take it though. Rich, any thoughts on what Nick just said?
I'm gonna be real with you. I think they could have cut it like 20 minutes off of this part one too as well. This is an issue I've had with Denny as a director as he's gone on, is he's gotten way more self-indulgent with these cinematic shots that hold for so fucking long. And like, look, from like a visual standpoint, it's beautiful, right? It's beautiful. But you're telling the story of Dune. You're adapting another piece of media. Tell the fucking story. Like, stop jerking yourself off about look at my sand, or however like he would say it. When you stretch out the first half of the book the way he did in the first one, and you get all this action coming in, like naturally the pacing is going to feel better.
This needs to be a 3-part series. But it needed this second one. We just need end it done.
Yeah.
This felt like it should have been the last of a threefer because I feel like in a universe there's some world where you can take Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2 as we have it now and just make it a nice 3-hour crisp 3-hour and 45-minute movie. I think there's a world where that's possible. The problem is it's no one's gonna go. I'm not gonna go see a 3-hour 45. It's not happening.
You're saying remake Killers of the Flower Moon over here?
Yeah, just remake it, but Dune's better, obviously.
Dune is a very difficult book to adapt. To squeeze that book into like the way it's shot now, I agree with you. But I think it's a very hard story to squeeze into like 3 hours and under.
Have you read the books, Richie?
I read the first one.
And the first one, yeah.
Like
I read half of
15
the
years
first
ago,
one,
though,
then I
so.
gave up.
Yeah, it's not no. Dune, the first book by Frank Herbert, was written to such a quality that only a tire manual company would publish it.
That's why Star Wars is better.
Where do you sit on Dune versus Star Wars? There's a lot of similarities.
Look, you have to give Dune credit, right? Because Star Wars literally wouldn't exist without Dune. So you got to give credit where credit is due. It's one of those things where you have a foundational piece of like literature or whatever medium. Somebody comes later and is like, "Oh, I like those ideas. Let me polish it a little bit. Let me refine it a little bit." That being said, Star Wars only has 2 good movies. Dune has like around 2.
In the last 5 years, this is probably one of the better sci-fi movies made.
Considering how old the original story is, the original Dune came out in the 60s, 70s. For this movie to adapt it and for the book to have been so influential to inspire like some of the biggest sci-fi franchises out there, Star Wars, Warhammer, you name it, it's probably touched on Dune. For Denny and all their team to come adapt that book and then have the movie look and feel completely unique and original compared to every other movie that's been inspired by that book is really impressive.
How did you see the movie last night? Did you go to IMAX or regular?
I went to a regular because IMAX was going to be front row, and
so I was curious just because, we mentioned like all these like long drawn out shots and we talk about like slow burns. I think slow burns really only work when it's like a tense scene. I do have beef with with movies that have long shots of just scenery and it's like slow for just the purpose of like aesthetic, similar to like 2001. Yeah, even like Apocalypse Now dips into that category. But yeah, I mention it because similar with something very different like Oppenheimer. They were like, you have to go see it in IMAX. So I was just curious about like, would those, long drawn out shots play better if it was on a bigger screen, if you were like super immersed into the theater.
I think that's only going to negatively impact it if you're watching it on like a phone or like a small TV. I don't know. I don't think it would impact my viewing of it at least because for me, I'm about character and narrative.
I watched the first Dune on HBO, so this was a completely different experience for me. I love this more in the theater than at home,
Yeah.
obviously. But yeah, so talking about Dune Part 2, performances, we talked about the story briefly. Who is performing the best?
Skarsgård, the Swedish guy, Harkonnen, what's his name?
The Baron.
Baron Harkonnen. What's the
Stellan
actor's name?
Skarsgård.
By far, his performance it's not even close.
I felt like he was insanely scary in the
Yeah.
first one. I didn't feel the same in the second one. I felt like Austin
Well,
Butler kind of took over in that aspect.
there's a reason for that because there's some shit that happens in the second half of the first book. Some
We
stuff.
we do spoilers here.
Okay. He's Baron Harkonnen's like a pedophile. Like he's a monstrous person. They cut, obviously that's not in the movie. They cut that, they cleaned it up. And I think some of that characters, like I don't want that in the like, but I think like part of his character, part of what makes him scary is the dirty, nasty shit, the self-indulgent stuff that he's doing. That, like you said, that got kind of pushed on to Nah Baron, whatever his name is. Younger
Fade
nephew.
Rautha.
Yeah, Fade Rautha.
Yeah, no, that's if that's in it, yeah, that villainizes, demonizes someone even more. Definitely more scary, threatening. Man, this is a tough one. I think my favorite character is easily Stilgar. Javier Bardem kills it in this movie. I think Chalamet is doing a very good job. I think it needs to be mentioned. We don't like to go for. I think
The main
he's
character.
main character. I think he's doing a good job. I think he's doing his job.
Javier Bardem, every time he was on the screen, he stole the scene. Also another thing we didn't mention yet, but there was just a lot more comedy in this one than the first one.
Thank God.
Which
Feels
I felt,
unintentional at times.
that's what I asked JP. I was like, was all of that intentional? I feel like some of it was, some of it
Some of it
maybe
wasn't.
not. Like the people in front of us were dying
Yeah.
over certain things that shouldn't have, but we were laughing a lot, and I was actually like, should I be laughing? I was like, this is Dune Part 2, but yeah, there was more comedy, and I think that helps also in terms of the pacing. Anytime Javier Bardem was on there, I was cracking up. Even just the acknowledgement of his accent. And I do think akin to Timothy Chalamet, I think the woman that plays the mother, I think her name's Rebecca Ferguson.
Yeah.
Great. She's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
She was amazing in it.
I will say the one moment of comedy that I don't think was intentional, it might have been when Paul's like in the center. They've gone to the south and Paul's in the center. And he's like, join me, blah blah blah. And what's his name? Brolin knocks what's her name off her feet like really quickly when she's
Zendaya.
in the crowd.
Yeah.
Zendaya, yeah. Like people started laughing and that was funny, but like it felt almost unintentionally funny because it kind of undercuts the severity of what's going on there.
Yeah, I mean,
I
we were laughing over the choice of Queen, but
Yeah.
I think that was more for us than
That
the
was
movie.
great. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I think some of it is unintentional. I think most of it is. I think the one scene you're pointing out, Rich, though, I think you're correct about that one. That one feels like maybe we shouldn't be laughing. But watching someone, the problem is anybody getting tripped or
Slapstick.
fall.
Yeah.
It's always funny. I think objectively, though my favorite is Javier Bardem, I do think Rebecca Ferguson is probably doing the best job.
Oh yeah, I'll amend my statement. She comes close to Skarsgård. I've seen a lot of stuff with her recently, and like it feels like she's playing a character. No, and it feels like the person on the screen is there, and it's not somebody playing a character.
We briefly talked about it, but how did you feel about Zendaya in this?
I don't like her or Timothy Chalamet's casting. I think they're really, really miscast.
I agree with you in the fact that I don't like Timothy Chalamet as a character. I feel like, go somewhere else. I still think he's doing a good job, but like he doesn't fit the character to me. I agree with you on that end.
Personally, I don't think he's doing a good job.
Okay.
When that scene, right, that intense scene we were talking about like just a minute ago, where like he's trying to convince all the people, it just rang so hollow. To me, it felt like, oh, I'm not watching Paul like try and manipulate and plead and like do this Machiavellian gamble. It felt like, oh, I'm watching an acting student act, you know? I didn't see the character,
Interesting.
I saw the actor.
Oh, you did. So yeah, you didn't believe. Yeah, you didn't
No,
believe
not
it
at
was
all.
more. Okay, interesting.
I
Oh, that was pretty
I'll
cool.
admit I'm biased. I don't like him as an actor. I think he gets miscast a lot.
Nick, have you ever watched interviews with Timothy Chalamet?
I don't think I have offhand.
Yeah. So if you watch interviews with him, he's very like go lucky, happy, laid back, very very chill, but
Yeah.
laughs a lot, very giggly. He's so soft and innocent. So like if you know that about him, to see him do it, I definitely agree with you.
Yeah.
And the fact that this is someone who's never just been stuck in New York City traffic, losing their fucking mind.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think he's a nepo baby. I
Yeah,
think
probably. It wouldn't
his
surprise me.
family like comes from money. And for Zendaya, Eddie I think said it the best. I think she's good in select roles. I think she was good in
Hmm.
Euphoria. I think she was good in I think it was Malcolm and Marie. But I think Eddie said it the best, where she was just not given enough material to have like a well-rounded character to give like a crazy good performance in this.
She's just
I
there.
Yeah, but I also think like a lot of her performance in this and in a lot of other movies is just this.
And then there's a
Yeah.
That's
quivering
pretty
of the
good,
lip,
actually.
yeah.
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 Since you've read the book, does her character have a bigger part in the book, or is she still just kind of there?
So this is going back like 15 years of me like starting a book I didn't like. So my memory's going to be hazy on it. But I do think she takes a bigger role. If I'm remembering correctly, I don't remember if it's the second book I'm thinking of.
It's
Yeah.
So
especially they definitely downplayed it in the movie.
yeah.
Um, the whole scene of her showing him how to walk in the desert and like being that accompaniment is way longer. And it's my biggest problem, probably one of my most frustrating scenes of the movie. They make such a big deal about there's this Jin. He's gonna try to trick you. Don't
Yeah.
talk to him, but you'll be okay. She comes and helps him, and
I thought it was
there's no
her.
Jin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
thought
thought I
it was
thought she was the Jinn. Yeah, I thought it
that's
was a
what I
vision.
thought. The Jin
Yeah.
just got it.
I thought it was to tempt him. Yeah.
No Jin. And then 2 seconds, he knows how to dance, walk in the desert. Bullshit.
They did show that he kind of did a little bit in the
Yeah,
first
A
movie.
little bit, but no, they built up this scene where like they were like, "Oh, you have to like prove yourself. You have to walk through this desert. It's gonna be like crazy." And he's like, "Okay."
Yeah.
10 seconds later, we're done with the desert.
Yeah, no, he
Yeah.
walks by himself. He tries. She makes fun of him for it. She shows him. And I feel like with a movie that lingers on everything, every shot you said, Rich, establishing,
Yeah.
we can't get 10 more seconds of him doing the dance in the desert with a girl. Nothing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
it easily could have been a 40 days in the desert Jesus kind of
That's what they're going
situation.
for. Yeah.
That's what they're
Yeah.
going for. And it's no spoiler that part 3 is actually in the works right now. They already announced it.
Yeah.
It's called Dune Messiah, I believe. And they're really playing that up in this movie. And from the looks of it, Zendaya might have a bigger part potentially. But JP, as our resident expert on all things religion, can you explain your experience with this
A
film?
lot of things, but obviously big ties to Christianity. That's obvious. If anyone knows Christianity, a lot of Christianic themes, but even more just Christianity, it really touches on the idea of religion, especially religions with Messiah figures and followers, how followers act, what is faith, what is reason. So it tackles the very basic, and Rich mentioned before, very philosophical books and a philosophical piece of media. And that's what this book is tackling all those philosophies. It falls into some tropes. The hero that doesn't want to be the hero, the Messiah that doesn't want to be the Messiah, but learning to accept it. The Messiah or the chosen figure having to go on a journey to prepare themselves for the journey ahead. We're in Lent right now, Catholics are, and it's Jesus preparing himself for his mission. So all of that is there. Getting tempted in the desert by a jinn, aka demon, aka devil. Jesus goes through the same thing. Reflects on Jesus' own life. Some of the stories, literally just taken. The Bible's an old book, so even for 1970, it's still a really old book. People know the stories written in America. People love the Bible. That maybe this might be some deeper stuff to think about. Is Prince Atreides? He's from Atreides from the house. Jesus is from a royal family, and Jesus then goes to the desert and he lives among the common people, raised that way, but he's from the line of David. And so he's sort of the king who comes back to take the throne, and Jesus goes to take his heavenly throne. So there's lots of different things here. I could probably do a full 50 to 100-page research paper just on all the religious themes that are found in this. So
it's a whole subversion intentionally of, the white savior and that whole trope and of like was it messianic figures and stuff like that. So like it makes sense that it would be that on the nose when you've got such a heady book,
yeah, I think the best for me personally, I think some of the best themes are, or the things that they address is like when Florence Pugh's character is talking about, well, how do you deal with if you kill the figure, they go stronger. If you suppress them, it gets better. Like, so I really like the way that they address that. And those are some of the fun ones. You have the believers that no matter what Timothy Chalamet does,
they'll find meaning.
they'll
Yeah.
find meaning in it. And so
Yeah.
it's finding people look for me. And then at the same time, as much as like the movie's making fun of them and like we're in on the joke, he ends up being
There's
the
power
guy.
there.
Yeah,
there's power there.
So yeah, the subversion you speak about, I found it great. And so as someone who, has studied this stuff and really looks into it, I loved all the jokes. And I probably laughed harder than most people because I love it.
And you don't even need to have like a background in Christianity, nor do you need a background on
To appreciate it, yeah.
Dune Part 1. It's about basically following someone.
But you can see that mentality of like, this guy's done some crazy shit. We're gonna follow him, and he eventually becomes mythologized and turned into something he wasn't originally. And I think that's something that crosses just Christianity. It crosses all lines. I think it's a deeper message,
What I think is really great though is that it's got sandworms, it's got lasers, it's got awesome suits and knives, and that's what, like, as much as it's on the nose, Jesus doesn't have sandworms he's got to fight with little things that hit the ground. Like that's like
So yeah, I think if there were swords and shields and lasers and all that good stuff, sandworms, I would have paid attention more in religion class. But what wasn't working for us in this movie?
Timothy Chalamet wasn't working for me. I think Zendaya wasn't working for me.
I'm so interested in where your rating for this is going to be if the two main stars are not working for you.
I think part of it has to do with their acting, but I think another part of it has to do with Denny's dialogue. The dialogue isn't great in the book, right? So I can't fault him there. People adapt books all the time and they put in their own dialogue. I'll just give an example in Game of Thrones real quick. The back and forth between Robert and Cersei in the early seasons, that's some of the best dialogue in the show, not in the books. So you can do it, and I think the dialogue is also like weak. I also was not a fan of getting fucking flashbanged like 5 times in this movie.
I didn't know if anyone else felt like that. JP, I know you made a face, but that's like when it was like super dark, and then the next scene is just the brightest
Bright desert,
of life, and it's like, what is happening?
It would go from like a very dark scene to like, here's sand at noon.
That is the director's choice. I knew you would be in a dark room, and I wanted you to experience what it's like for these people every day who struggle.
I wanted you to feel the pain of being in the desert.
The pain of I in the desert.
We're skating away from French and going into German now.
What
you will enjoy the weather.
I'm just gonna pop in Eddie's major gripe with the film. I will tell you, major is that nobody from the Atreides family is getting a tan.
I think if they were gonna get a tan,
they would get sunburn.
It would well, not just that. I mean, like I'm pale as fuck, but I can tan. But like they'd only get a tan here.
Or the thing over their mouth.
And I'm torn about the costume design. In some ways, it's phenomenal, but when it came to the Fremen, I wasn't a fan of their costumes because in the book, the way it's made out, it seems like it's a full body enclosed, like helmet, everything system, and it recycles all your liquid. And it's like most of the Fremen have an open face. And I get that it's like, okay, we got to see the main actor, whatnot, but it's just like the desert is so fundamental to the story, how it affects everybody, and how and they did a lot in the first movie, like how even losing an ounce of liquid is bad, and not having that full soup did bother me a bit, but what are you gonna do?
It was a problem I had in the first one. The fights just happen just so fast, and you really can't see a lot of it. It's somewhat similar to like Only God Forgives. Like it's just like it's happening so fast you really can't appreciate all the moves to a certain extent.
Yeah.
It's not in a John Wick kind of way where you can really see what's going on. But what I did like about the last scene, the last fight scene, is that it is the actors doing those moves. Like those aren't body doubles.
That's fair, but I feel like if the actor's skill is so limited to the point where you're going to have to shoot it like that to cover up for their weaknesses and the authenticity of it, I don't know. It doesn't make it up for me personally.
They're bad guys with guns, but when our
Yes.
good guys fight them, nobody has guns.
Where are the shields? Where the fuck did the shields go?
Oh, don't get me started on the shields.
Where did the
It's-
shields go? Like, I don't look. It's this the idea of the shield is kind of silly, right? But it's in the universe. It's in the first movie. It's in the book. Fine, make it work. We don't want a lot of guns. It's fine. Where the fuck did the shields go?
They make a big deal about the shields
Yeah.
in the first one, and we were talking about this on the train, JP, about how they made a big deal about it. You always saw the blue, then you see the red, and they did a whole tutorial in the first one about it. But then this one, it feels like shields don't really matter. Like
see
everybody's
one
getting
shield.
red. Yeah.
I didn't think they even had shields.
I think
Like,
they had it, but it was just so fast that you really only saw like a bit of red and then it was gone. And then Austin Butler had it at one point.
gladiator fight scene. Yeah.
Yeah,
Gladiator
I mean
scene.
that was the one I was yeah. But like when they're in those black suits, the first time you see the Harkonnens land, great looking suits. I loved them. They're weird. They're a great, fantastic 10 out of 10. But when they go up to the cliff, and they're just getting shot through their helmets. It's like, why don't these guys have their shields on?
I just think if people have guns, we don't need to do knives. And
Yep.
but I'm tired of these movies. I guess I'm just tired. This is why I don't like action scenes. This is why I don't like action movies. Is that when it's convenient, guns are irrelevant.
Yeah.
They exist and they're awesome. Then woof, they're gone. Woo,
Well,
they're
the
not here
thing
anymore.
is, and then in this movie, the thing that prevents guns from being used is just gone. And now the guns which should be suddenly relevant, are irrelevant.
Exactly like this. Bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
Let's talk quickly about sandworms because that's the big thing. Did you get the sandworm bucket?
No.
They made a
No.
big thing about this,
I saw it.
and it got memed so fast. But sandworms are a big thing
fleshlight
in this
bucket?
one. Yeah, yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
I have a gripe with how they made this big sequence about getting on top of a sandworm, and that it was like a challenge.
Mhm.
If you don't get on top of the sandworm, you can't be a part of this. Then the next scene, immediately after, they are
He's getting
just
on it.
driving the mom on the sandworm in this full like carriage on top of it. It's
Mhm.
like, how'd you get that up there?
Yeah, I mean, maybe they came from above, maybe. I don't know.
This is the deadliest form of transportation. Only no one man can do it. All
Gets an
passengers,
entire arm.
please grab your children. We're going on the sandworm today.
Got at 2:00. Hey there, Mrs. McKillicuddy. Come on the train.
I mean, we didn't get into the weird worm shit yet. That might be in the third one. Yeah.
Does anyone have a favorite scene?
I think, ironically, even though I just shat on it, it was probably riding the worm. I thought it was just a really done sequence. I do also love the fight sequence when they're trying to take down kind of like that helicopter thing.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah,
that's a good scene.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think any
that's
of
good.
those grounded fight sequences did just look stunning.
I'm now that you mention it, I think the entire gladiatorial section where it's all in black and white was just great. It's
Yeah.
done so well. It's almost seamless. Like it really is almost seamless at times where it's like,
When it first happened, I double guessed myself. I was like, wait,
Yeah.
is this black and white right now? Like,
yeah, or are my eyes like messed
Yeah,
up? Yeah.
was it
I think it's done
all
really
that
seamlessly.
sand?
But in that scene, it draws attention to his shield, which then reminds me, oh wait, there are shields. Why is nobody using them in this movie? I also liked when they revealed the fucking nukes, because adding nukes to a movie always improves it. I love it.
Eddie just kept giving me side commentary when that happened. He was like, "Wait, they have nukes? Can't they just like bomb everybody and just call it a day? Like, we don't need the rest of this movie right now."
I think the shields blocked nukes. That's why they didn't hit the shields directly. They hit something. They hit outside it. I don't know.
The book probably answers a lot of the questions you have, but it is, it's 700. Like, I think Rich, and it's good that you say it. Like, it is a 700-page book. They can't get everything. Can't explain it. My favorite scene in the movie might just be because of the movie theater experience. Is the last scene when he's doing the fight. Nothing to do with the fight though. Everything to do with "I will love you as long as I breathe." Now, mimic that woman over there. Give me that nice blonde woman, Florence Pugh. Oh, it was so good. And everybody in the theater is cracking up. The long shot of Zendaya after she tells him, "And I will have her hand in marriage. Amen. I will love you till I die." So yeah, the fight, I will say the fight scene was very good. I do agree with you. I think overall the best action scene. All the action scenes are great in this movie. Someone who really doesn't enjoy action, despite like that guy has a gun, he's probably not going to shoot it. I do think they're all great, especially the one with the helicopter one, the grasshopper one flying around. It shoots at them. It kills people. That's all I want to see. I just want to see the bad guys using
It's
their
believable.
shit. Yeah, it's believable. That's all I want to see. Just kill some, have some good guys die. That's all I want.
Now that you mentioned the fight scenes, I like the one where they do that initial ambush in the desert where the older nephew retreats.
Mm-hmm.
I did think that was a little awkward the way he retreated, because like in that first movie he's built up as this like monster, and then in this one like he felt like like it was like, okay.
I have one question because I saw an interesting comment online, so we have to address it. We have to. It's up to us.
Yeah.
I saw it on a comment thread where one guy said that Christopher Nolan should give the sloppiest of toppies to Denis, that this got pushed out of November into 2024 so that way it wouldn't compete with Oppenheimer.
I don't know if Oppenheimer did as well as it did because of a lack of competition.
Would it have like that much more competition come Oscar season? Because right now Oppenheimer, it is one of the clear front runners right now.
While we were doing this whole thing, I went back and looked at what I gave Oppenheimer, and I gave it a 4, and I stand by that 4.
Out of 5 or out of 10?
Out of 5.
Okay.
Out of 5. Yeah. We're just like, what the fuck is guy? No. I think I enjoyed Dune more than Oppenheimer. I'd probably watch Dune 2 before I'd watch Oppenheimer again. That's me, just because it's more sci-fi. It's things I enjoy more. Because that's really the question is, if they came out at the same time, which one do you think? That's a tough one for me. I'm not quite sure. I think Nolan should be a little grateful because I do think there would have been definitely a little competition.
My rating for Dune is going to be somewhat in the same area. But if I had to compare one to the other and say which one is better, it's hard because it's art and they're two different genres also. Again, I just recently saw Dune. I feel like I'd be leaning Dune in a sense because it was just faster. But I do think Oppenheimer is the better movie overall.
I think I think I'm probably somewhere in this. If I was forced to watch part 1 of Dune as well, I think I'd shoot myself.
Yeah.
So I would go Oppenheimer in that situation. But if I could play this movie at like 1.5 speed to like cut through the fucking establishing shots constantly, I would probably pick Dune.
Well, then I think it's time for final thoughts and ratings, right, Nick?
Yep, it is time.
Nick, I'll go first for this one. Let me hit this one up.
Okay, you seem excited.
I don't know if I am. So Dune, part 2 of it's a part 2er. You know how I feel about parts, but out of all the part 2s I've seen, this is one of the better part 2s. The movie, I think one thing I forgot to mention this whole thing, as much as I'm annoyed at the pacing, this is a 2-hour and 45-minute movie, and it didn't feel like it. It actually felt like a little less, as slow as Dune is. I actually thought we were only hovering around 2 hours and 15 minutes. So I think a lot of points in that department for me. A lot of the action's good. And I'm someone who really get nitpicky about action, things like that. Besides the whole gun thing, the action scenes do feel tense. They do feel good. A lot of great themes, things that I enjoy. I think what will ruin this movie for me is if they do make a part 3. I think it's great just the way it is. I don't think I don't need to know anything else. The Paul Atreides arc for me is done. I don't want to know anything anymore. I don't care about anything else anymore. He won it. He got it back. The Zendaya stuff, who cares? However, I think there are some things that are holding back from being a 5. I almost want to give it a 5. I really want to give it a 5. But I'm going to end up on a 4. I think I would watch this before Oppenheimer, though.
I feel like overall, this movie does a lot right. Cinematography looks just amazing. There are some great performances. Not everyone. I think just the overall design of the film looks really great. I think, again, pacing-wise, much better than part 1. I think if you compare the two, obviously this one is better. So if part 1 was like a 4, then this, I feel, is like a 5 to me.
You gave part 1 a 4?
What is it?
You gave part 1 a 4?
Part 1 feels like a really solid movie, but if you compare it to part 2, then it feels like part 1's a 4 and this is a 5.
All right, Rich.
I think it is good. You know, it's a beautiful movie. Yeah, like there's so many scenes where if you just took that one frame and like paused it, you could turn that into like a beautiful painting to hang on the wall. I think like overall there's like the sound is great, but a lot of the time I couldn't understand what people were fucking saying, and I don't know if that was because of the sound mixing or the delivery or it was a weird word they were using.
Or
I don't know what it
Javier
was.
Bardem.
Yeah. Where I was just like, what the fuck? And then I'd be like, context. Okay, I can figure it out, you know? Main protagonists as love interests are ring hollow. They ring very hollow for me because of the performance and the dialogue. The costumes look original and classic at the same time. I think the action scenes, for the most part, like you guys said, aside from like the one-on-one duels where they're constantly cutting back and forth, are really, really good. I think this one works way better as a complete story. I don't think 1 works very well as a standalone. It felt very much part of an incomplete story to me. It's got flaws. It's much closer to Dune. Like if I were to see this, I'd be like, yeah, this is Dune compared to what the 80 movie, which was not Dune. So I got to give him credit there. I think it was a pretty good adaptation, and I'd give it 3.8 out of 5.
Whoa, no half stars.
All right, we
No
did
point,
we
no
did a lot
decimals.
here that just doesn't work for us.
Fine.
Cut that out.
Yeah.
If I had to give this movie a rating, I'd have to give it a 4. It's a good movie. You don't have to watch the first one to get it, but I think it stands alone pretty well.
What I love about what I love about the rating system is like, even if it's a 3.8, it feels so dirty sometimes giving movies a 4 that even if it's like 3.9, 3.7, I will drop it to a 3.
Yeah.
Just be like, fuck
Oh
you,
yeah.
you don't get a
Even though we had to redo that, I'm 100% clipping that section and posting that as a thing.
Whoa!
Whoa, we can't do that here. We're gonna make it sound like you cursed or something. You know.
Yeah.
Or I now will refuse to do half stars with anything or point systems, is that it really forces you to categorize a movie. Like, yes, the pinpoint accuracy I think is good and that serves its purpose. But I think if you told someone who is a 3.6er, if you're forced to put it into a 3 or to a 4, I think it says more about what you think of the movie. This has been an episode of Take 3 or 3. Thanks so much for watching. I want to thank our special guest, Rich. Many delays, but you finally got here. Thank you, Dune, for showing. We appreciate you. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Make sure you follow us at take.303 or at fortway_media. See what we're posting. You can check out all the reels, all the funny stuff before it comes out. Rich, do you have anything to plug? Great.
Watch Shogun. Watch Shogun. It's great.
Okay. Where can the people find Shogun?
Hulu.
All right, you heard it. A 1-episode segment of Rich recommends Shogun. All right, make sure you take it out there. Make sure you check us at Fortway Media, fortwaymedia.com. See all the good stuff. This week's whole question of the week is, I think there's only really 2 questions. Who does it better, Star Wars or Dune? No other options. Pick it. Which do you prefer? Obviously, if you haven't seen Dune yet, definitely vote before you see it. And then, of course, this week's question of the week is same as last week. Well, at this point, for the very last time, are there any other categories you want to see us do for the Broskers? Catch you guys all next time when we review
imaginary.
See you next time. Bye bye.